Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am Gillian Barry, and today we have on one of my favorite guests ever. We have Eli Martyr from the Freemelon Society. He is an almost 7-year fruitarian. So Eli is great. When I have him on, they're always some of the most popular videos. I know you guys love him. And I reached out to you guys and you guys have amazing questions for Eli. So we're going to do a really awesome Q&A. And let's
Cool.
get right into it. Give this video a big thumbs up right now. And how's it going, Eli?
Everything's good. Everything is good. Thanks so much for having me back on here. I always love coming and chatting with you guys, and of course your audience. So, Jillian's audience, hello. Thanks so
Yeah.
much for being interested and having me back on here. And so, if I can answer whatever questions you have for me, then I will. If I can't, I can't. But I'll
Yeah.
let you know. But hopefully good stuff.
Okay, no, they're awesome. And okay, so just for anybody, so I'll link all the videos we've done before below for anybody who's wondering too. And just for anybody watching who might be new to Eli, I would like just if you could just give a quick synopsis of what exactly your lifestyle is. Like, so you're a 7-year fruitarian, and what sort of led you to being a fruitarian, someone who eats mostly only fruit. And then we'll get into the questions.
Okay, yeah. So just like brief recap.
Yeah.
Basically, I don't like a horror story to tell you from prior to my dietary changes. I wasn't suffering from any, critical disease or whatnot. I was just a very good student, and so got really interested in health and wellness and spirituality. I've been a lifelong athlete, very, very interested in physical activity, martial arts, gymnastics, all that kind of stuff. So just naturally, that's where my attention's aligned with health and wellness. And then just did a whole bunch of reading and studying until I started to discover that there was a simpler and easier and more natural, intuitive way to eat and live that aligned with what God, creator, or nature designed your body to do. And so I started doing that, and then noticed a whole bunch of positive beneficial changes in my life, with how I felt, how I looked, the disappearance of certain annoying little health complications, and I've looked back since. And so living the way I do, where I eat pretty much all fruit. There are other things on the menu like vegetables and nuts and seeds. I consider those on the menu of acceptable human foods. It's just that I almost never make that choice. So almost 100% of the food that I eat from day to day is fruit. And so I've been doing that, like you said, for 7 years now. Oh, well, just about 7 years, and feeling great. Feeling great every day. I feel pretty damn good.
And
And
looking good too.
come on. Thank you. That's very kind of you. But yeah, feeling great, and all of these little complications that seem to plague people from day to day that they imagine is just something they live with. It's amazing how a lot of those things kind of just vanish from your life, and so things are looking well.
Right? Like you should be feeling good. We shouldn't be feeling like arthritis or getting worse eyesight with age and these types of things, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. No, these things are not a product of how many years you've been on the planet. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with how much accumulation of waste products build up in your system and eventually start clogging all of the channels, the energetic channels, or even the physical channels in your body. And so the more of these waste products of life that accumulate without efficient, expedient elimination, then you get the products of aging. Things stiffen
Mm-hmm.
up, slow down, less energy, vessels getting choked out and starved out, less oxygen delivery, blah, 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 blah. All this is a result of waste product accumulation, and not how old you are. Because if it was how old you are,
Mm-hmm.
well, logically speaking, everybody would have the exact same progression of age-related conditions as
Mm-hmm.
everybody else. There would be like no difference between people. We would
Mm-hmm.
all age at a very predictable rate with a very predictable set of circumstances that afflict everybody. If age was the thing, of
Mm-hmm.
course, it's not. We have the 90, 100-year-olds, doing parallel bar routines because it's fun, right? And then we also have the 70-year-olds who are racked with pain in wheelchairs, hunched over like this, walking, they can't move. We have those too. I've seen people my age that I was shocked to hear them tell me that they were in my age bracket. I'm like, really? Like, so anyway, none of this would be possible.
And how old are you? Sorry. Yeah.
The decline, right?
Yeah. And sorry, how old are you in case because people might wonder?
Yeah, I'm 38.
Yeah. 38. And you know what? I feel better. I'm almost 40. I feel better at like 40 than I did at 20. I feel better at 40 on fully raw vegan than I did at 20 eating like everything. It's crazy. Well, I want to ask you too, just a couple of my own questions before we get into the viewers' questions. I just want to ask you about fats because I know you keep your fats low being high fruitarian. And the last couple of days I've been eating lower fats and I feel a lot better. I feel like eating too many fats can maybe weigh you down, lead to depression, anxiety, maybe a little bit more fatigue, things like that. So what are your thoughts on that? Why do you think I feel so much better lower fat?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm glad that you're starting to feel better. And I would imagine that this would be similar for anybody that cuts out more of the highly concentrated fats from their diet. Okay?
That's what I meant. Yeah.
And the reason is, because fats are essential, right? We have, or certain fats are essential. And the thing is, when you cut back on the concentrated fats, the reason you start to feel really good is because you're still getting all of the fats that are essential. Okay. It's not that you're not getting them anymore. They're in all foods. You can't avoid this. There's no such thing as a no fat diet. It's completely impossible. Unless your diet is, I don't know, honey and Jello and maple syrup or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
One of those things, right? If your diet's that, maybe you have a no fat diet. Other than that, it's impossible. So the confusion comes from the world telling you that because fat, with a certain spectrum of fats that are essential, you need to get those from the highly concentrated sources of those fats. That is the lie, okay? But you still need them, but they come in the perfectly balanced, minimal concentrations in fruits, vegetables, the nuts and seeds, even though those are a bit more concentrated. Where you don't need to get them from is, the oils, especially all the oils. None of this is nutritionally necessary. And there are exception foods like avocados and olives and whatnot. Coconuts are very, very high in fat. And it's not that they're bad. It's just that fats are more difficult to deal with in your system. And whether they're of vegetable origin or whether they're of animal origin, high fat is still high fat. It's still going to slow things down. It might sludge up your blood. Blood flow might be restricted to a crawl or a fraction of what it was prior to the high fat meal, whether it's high fat vegetable meals or whether it's high fat animal meals. Same thing. The high fat animal meals are a lot more damage to your system because of a whole set of other reasons. The proteins and the hormones that are in meat, and I'm not talking about like injected hormones. I'm just talking about normal hormones that are found in human or in human tissue, in animal tissue. So anyway, there's a whole bunch of reasons why animal fats are worse. So vegetable fats are infinitely preferable if you're going a high fat diet. But one way or another, you're eating high fat foods, which slow things down in your system. They're more difficult to deal with, difficult to break down. And you don't need them in these constant forms. It's much better to have a clean functioning system, to have the very small amount of fats that Mother Nature seems to intuitively put in fruits and vegetables. And because that should be your prime source of energy for in your diet, it makes sense to keep your fat percentages in those similar ratios that they come naturally with in like apples, bananas, papayas, mangoes, lettuce, carrots, cabbage, arugula, asparagus. All these fruits and vegetables, they all have perfect concentrations of carbohydrates, fats, proteins, right? That's how it should be.
I notice even if I eat like one whole avocado in a day, like no other really overt fats, but one avocado, it's even like too much and I'm more tired. I mean, I can't, mind you, I can't sleep in as late as I want to. If maybe somebody can get all the sleep they need, then they can have more fats.
Yeah.
But it's still, yeah, I think, do you notice a difference if you have fats higher on how you feel versus if they're lower?
100, oh my God, 100%. Especially for someone like me. Like I'm a very good candidate to test how
Mm-hmm.
suitable high foods are in the diet. I'm telling you guys, you live for a certain amount of time. Give it a month, 3 weeks, 4 weeks on very low fat raw diet. It's got to be a raw diet because your body has to really start to get the feel of true living foods coming into the system, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you live on that raw diet. High percentage of food coming in is fruit, vegetables, whatever it is, okay, whatever you like. And all of a sudden you have just a high fat meal. Just test yourself, just have a higher fat meal. You will, the difference is so stark, so noticeable. Everything will slow down. You will slow down. You will need more sleep that day. You're going to wake up the next morning. You can still feel the meal, just sitting in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's everything slow. Your GI motility will slow down. So if you get into the rhythm of going to the washroom consistently, which will happen if you're on a raw food, high food diet, your bowel movements are so regular, so regular, and then all of a sudden it's like a monkey wrench gets thrown into the whole system with this one fat food, and just everything slows down. You'll feel it. So, and I've done this experiment so many times, and I've tried it every single combination. My mind goes, okay, maybe it's the combinations that are wrong. What if I have just avocados? You
Mm-hmm.
mentioned avocados. Live for like 3 weeks on the same thing I always do, just fruits, and then introduce this wildly fattening meal out of nowhere, right? Just to see how I would react. And I did the same thing with just avocados. So like that stupid 7 avocados in a meal. Like, don't do that,
Yeah.
guys. Don't do
Imagine.
it. I've
Yeah.
tried it. Oh yeah, it's crazy. I've tried avocados mixed with vegetables. I've tried different types of fats. The one kind of exception that I will say is that coconut meat tends to have less of an encumbering effect on your system.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just the way that coconut is broken down and metabolized. It starts to get broken down earlier on. Like you break it down in your mouth prior to it going into your gut, and it just has an easier time being digested. So now it's still super high fat food, so it still might have these less ideal metabolic effects. It's not to say it's bad. Don't get the wrong idea. I'm not saying coconut's bad. It's just that those foods are better moderated than your high carbohydrate water rich food, plant rich
Mm-hmm.
food. Yeah.
And I'm wondering, do you ever have a cheat day? I never do. I just feel so good, but I think I might go to the vegan fest next month and just have like the tacos and all the stuff just for one day, but I don't ever. But do you ever have a cheat day or no?
Um, a cheat. What I just described to you would be a cheat day.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
like add those 7 avocados in a day. That is definitely a cheat day, right?
Yeah.
A cheat day. Cheat. Not not really. No. I
Yeah.
mean, cheat days for me tends to look more like just vegetable meals.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like big salads or something. That tends to be more what it looks like, but not really, not in
Because you
any
just feel
significant
so
way.
good like this, right? Like, I mean, that's why I eat raw because it makes me feel my best. And I know if I have a cheat day on
Yeah,
like cooked food and stuff, I won't feel as good. Would you say like
yeah,
that's your main priority for doing fruitarian because it's what makes you feel your best?
absolutely. Yes, it's what makes me feel best. But I've tried doing all these cheat meals and experiments just
Mm-hmm.
on what happens. Out of curiosity, what happens to my body if I just try this, and it's just done it so many times that eventually your mind and your body starts to get the idea that it is enjoying the feel of being healthy and clean and energetic over the sacrifice of feeling not so good after the experiment cheat meal or whatnot. And if you do it enough times, eventually you get the idea, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it is that reason. I mean, I avoid it because that it starts to turn into that's what I want to do. I want to stay doing what I'm doing because everything just feels and works better when I do.
Yeah.
And so it's far less discipline because people imagine that I'm exerting or exacting some sort of discipline myself. And I mean, try to tell them like, no, guys, this is not discipline. It's just, for me, this is just the self-evident truth of living.
Yeah. And how are your workouts? Because you're active, right? So like, how are your workouts on this lifestyle? And would you say like, can you remember to compare how they were before when you ate sort of standard American like cooked diet versus now on high fruit?
Yeah, my workout. Okay, that's a good question. My workouts. One of the things I credit myself for is I didn't really change much of my my workout frequency and routine through a whole transition. So I never stopped moving ever, right? From years and years and years ago up until now. What I did change kind of the style of my workout, but that was just because of getting more informed on how good exercise should be conducted. Not really a result of my diet necessitating a change in my workout life. So how can I answer that question?
Like, would you feel like you have as much energy or like more energy on this lifestyle? I know I just got back into working out and I feel like I have way more energy than I used to in the gym.
Yes. Okay. Yes. In terms of how much energy you have at the gym, yeah, nothing's changed. Things have gotten better. I'd say one of the bigger changes is my recovery time. So in the past, if I had a pretty tough workout, then that for sure is looking like 2 or 3 days of recovery. Whereas now it could be, I don't know, half that. You know, the day after. Not that you should work out immediately after a hard workout without much recovery. Not saying go do that, right? But what I am saying is that the feeling is different. So it feels like you can recover much quicker, okay, or much more quickly. So that I definitely noticed. My recovery was good. I noticed that I could, like, with short bouts of real intense activity, they make me far less fatigued. And I remember, I think I've told the story before because I do a lot of sprinting, just for fun.
And you're a stunt man too, for anybody who doesn't know, right?
Yes. So I'm a professional stunt guy. For anyone who doesn't know me yet, and been working in film for many years. And I maintain my physical activity routine. I maintain a career in film where I have to be physically active and physically able, and I do it all with this diet of fruit. Right? So yeah, with short bouts of really intense activity, I find that my breathing still is very good, like very calm, and recovers really quickly. And because your cardiovascular system starts to get uncluttered. The reason your activity starts to look really good is because your cardiovascular system starts to get uncluttered from all of the byproducts of bad digestion from eating bad that we call culturally normal, right? So all that stuff starts to get cleared out, and yeah, of course your cardiovascular system is going to improve, which translates into better workouts. Okay, and really quickly before you go on to the next question, in the very short run, if you're transitioning to a high fruit, raw food, raw vegan diet, okay, yes, you can expect a couple changes. You can expect a breakdown phase. You can expect to undergo some detox symptoms, just like you would if you were getting rid of coffee, getting rid of chocolate from your life, getting rid of any kind of addictive stimulant. You can expect all that. So yeah, that's true. That's a fact, but it doesn't last forever. And at some point, you start to reclaim a lot of that really good feeling energy that is really only possible if you have a clean diet.
100%. And I just want to ask you
Yeah.
before we get into questions, what's your take on smoothies? Do you ever have smoothies, or do you just believe in like the whole
Oh,
fruit?
I used to rely a lot more on smoothies.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I want to say rely. I think I just did them because they taste really good. They can taste really good, so I did them. When I was when I was first starting out, then I used a lot more smoothies. But as I started to go in and added more, just more time to the lifestyle that I was living,
Mm-hmm.
and some cleansing as well. So whether it was fasting, juice cleanses, uh, you do start to notice that, I don't know. I found that smoothies don't eliminate and digest as well.
As the whole
There's
food.
something about yeah, there's something about the fibers being in a completely pulverized state that I think is a bit more confusing to your system as it goes down.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you were asking me, I would say it's probably better to either pick one, either juice your fruits and vegetables, so it's just complete juice,
Mm-hmm.
or eat them whole. The smoothie is kind of that somewhere in between where your body's like, I don't know if this is solid food. I don't know if this is liquid. It can be a bit confusing, and it doesn't relate as expediently as either just juices would or whole foods.
Mm-hmm.
So, but again, it doesn't mean don't use them. I certainly did. If you're asking me, do I do it now? Almost never. No, very,
Mm-hmm.
very rarely I eat a smoothie or drink a smoothie. I don't even know what the hell you call it. One or the other.
Yeah.
Ingest. I very rarely ingest a smoothie. Uh, but I did do it when I was starting in my first year, and
Yeah.
then after that, it kind of fizzled off.
Yeah.
Could be because I'm lazy too. It was just a lot easier to go home and just chop the melon in half and just start eating it. And so maybe I'm just lazy. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I feel better on the whole food, but I just sometimes it's easier too. Okay, so Vegan
Yes.
Enlightenment wants to know how much fruit does Eli eat in a day, and what's his top 5 favorite fruits?
I tend to gravitate towards melons a lot, and I think it's because you get so much bang for your buck. I use that as the expression, not necessarily financially, but you buy one melon from the clearance section if you're me, right? And $3, and it's an entire meal. Like it's so much. Like if we're
Mm-hmm.
talking honeydew, cantaloupe, or
Mm-hmm.
whatnot, you can get a lot of food for not very much, and it's an entire meal. So I find I really like that because it affords just simplicity to my meal planning or meal prep, and I put it in quotes because I don't really have prep or planning and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so melons is a pretty much go-to. I love papayas. Apples and pears are fantastic. Apples and pears fill me up. I can take them with me on the go if I need to, and it doesn't take that many of them to feel pretty satiated. So apples and pears are wonderful. I would say those are the main ones. Oh, jackfruit. I'm lucky. There's a bunch of places in my area that sell jackfruit, so that's an amazing treat whenever I can get it. So I'd say my main go-tos are, yeah, melons, apples, pears, papayas. Oh, I'm sorry, and mangoes as well. So a lot of the tropical fruits I really enjoy. Pineapples are up there too. It's just that it's harder to find actual ripe ones here in Toronto. I live in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, anything, whatever's in season, whatever's good. What if something cheaper for a couple of weeks or whatever, I'll have that. Grapes, I eat lots of grapes too. But it just depends. It's always a tough question because I'd like to just say, think of a fruit. Okay, I eat it. I like it. I'll
Mm-hmm.
eat that. And you how how often do I eat, and how much fruit do I eat
How
in a
much?
day?
I know one person commented and said you eat only 1 or 2 melons a day, but I think you eat more than that, don't you? Or no?
I can't. I definitely can, and I definitely can eat 1 or 2 melons in a day
Mm-hmm.
as well. So it's kind of both, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just depends on how I feel. T- today, give you today for example, had a bowl of grapes a bit earlier, And I found there's a place that sells mame sapote.
Mm-hmm.
Sapota, how do you
Mm-hmm.
pronounce it?
Mm-hmm.
So I had one of those and a bowl of grapes, and that's going to be it for the day. Like
Yeah.
I'm good.
And say you have like a big session for your stuntman work and you're doing like it's a big day and then you've worked up a big appetite. Like what would you go to after that when you get home?
After yes, see, here's the funny thing, because with fruit, you're talking about so much water content and so much fiber that there's only so much you can pack in one setting
Mm-hmm.
or setting, in one
True.
session, right? So that's kind of the beauty of it. And so we start talking weight loss. I mean, it's a joke when you get into raw foods. If we're on the low fat
Yeah.
portion of the raw food diet, right? If you're on the low fat portion, diet or weight loss is like it's hilarious. It's a joke. So okay, anyway, I just have a high or a long day at
Yeah.
work, been running around all day. Usually how that works is I just don't eat them at work. That I tend to like just not eating, just forget about eating. I'll just wait till I'm home. That's usually what happens. If I do eat at work, I can bring a little Tupperware of either grapes or apples. Or grapes are great because they're just easy. And on set, you never know. You could be in the middle of a forest in the middle of the night with an awful wardrobe, with your hands covered in dirt, your face is covered in dirt, you're wearing a real mask. It's all these silly variables that just make eating a little bit inconvenient. So usually I just forget about it and wait till I get home.
Yeah.
So in that case, when you get home, usually it's going to be later in the evening. And how do I eat? I eat exactly in the way I told you. Nothing changed.
Mm-hmm.
I like to start with a melon. So I'll eat a melon. If I want something after the melon, then I chase that with either grapes, but whatever the second item is, either the grapes or the pears, or maybe it's the mangoes, or maybe it's the papaya, or whatever it is. And usually that's good for me.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And how do you think we can combat overeating? Do you have any tips for that? Because I even think sometimes as a raw vegan, I know for me, sometimes I overeat. Maybe it can be emotional reasons, stuff like that.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
mean, I still think even if it's healthy food, it's not good to like overeat when your body doesn't want it anymore. So do you have any tips for that?
Mm. Yeah, in the beginning, it depends on where you are in your transition. So in the beginning, I found that dried fruits really helped. Okay, bananas and dates or figs, dried figs, those obliterated my satiation. Like
Mm-hmm.
it'll crush any hunger pangs in you if you're still hungry. So I use that every time I felt that way in my initial transition period. Eventually, though, if you are avoiding the high fat foods, I would say it's a lot safer to just keep eating if you're not satiated. You'll get to that
Mm-hmm.
point where it's just too much because you're literally getting filled with so much water and so much fiber that your stomach will mechanically not be able to hold
Yeah.
hold much up, right? That's the good thing about fruits and vegetables, right? Raw fruits and vegetables. You literally, if they are the low fat variety, you are gonna have a hard time overeating and be putting on weight and one. It's just not gonna happen. Like you're gonna run into that block of the size of your stomach, and you'll be all right.
Mm-hmm.
So the answer A is don't feel guilty or shameful about continuing to eat as long as you're paying attention to the low fat variety of the raw foods. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, don't just keep eating if what you're eating is a massive bowl of pistachios and avocados. Do not do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
That would set yourself up for disaster. But if we're talking overeating cantaloupes, I, just eat the cantaloupes. You're going to be fine. It's going to be a whole ton of water that flows through you, and a whole ton of cellulose that's just going to wash your gut clean. So it's not as big a deal. You can eat just more of that stuff. If you're really feeling, oh, I need something substantial, then mixing fruits with some other dried fruits is an option. or you can chase it down with a big salad of some sort, so a big vegetable meal on top of the fruits, or you can even combine your fruits with your salads. So chopped up apples and pears with a big helping of lettuce and carrots and whatever it is. So you can do all those things, but yeah, it's harder to go wrong when you're actually operating in the low fat spectrum.
True.
As soon as you throw in the fat, then that's when you get all the problems. But if it's just the carbohydrates and the water and the fiber, it's just the stuff, your body just loves it, right? So
true. And I just want to say, because you mentioned dates, I know what dates, because I've been eating some dates lately. I know a great tip some people have given me in interviews, because they can be bad for your teeth, right? So a few tips I got, and it's been working great, is to swish really good with water right after you eat them. Switch a few times with water and floss. Like they say, don't brush right after you eat dates because it can brush the sugars right into your teeth. But that works great. So I think that's great. Well, okay. The next question, somebody said they're really excited you're back on the channel and they want to know, Eli, after going fruitarian, how long did it take Eli after going fruitarian to notice that he required less food to stay nourished? And has he eliminated the so-called mucoid plaque from his body? So many raw vegans and fruitarians are eating much higher volumes than he is, but he seems to be doing great, even if the food may not be the best quality, i.e. self-grown, enriched soil, no pesticides, etc. Would be cool if he could share his perspective on malabsorption as well. Is mucoid plaque the cause of malabsorption, or is it a combination of that and the food being picked unripe, low quality, etc.? This is a great question.
Okay, so let's see. Okay, let's talk mucoid. Yeah, it's a thing. Yes, it can absolutely, and if it's there, will affect your ability to absorb need from food. Okay, so 100% yes. It's the factors that contribute to mucoid plaque forming in your particular body. They can be very peculiar to each individual person. So they can be. It's a very individual thing. Some people have they're just designed in a way that makes mucoid plaque accumulate with more ease than other people. So it's hard to say why one person does develop it and another person doesn't. There is a common denominator, of course, here. It's absolutely wretched, awful food. Okay, so one way or the other, avoid wretched, awful food, and mucoid plaque becomes less of a thing. Okay, have I experienced mucoid plaque? I haven't experienced mucoid plaque in my life, and I've done the whole gamut. Like I've done the month-long water fast. I've done week-long fasts of both water, dry fasts as well. Although dry fast, you're probably not going to be eliminating mucoid plaque. I've done the juice cleanse. I've done many juice cleanses. 2 months, 3 months. I've done all that stuff. And I never really noticed much of the way in mucoid plaque coming out of my system. Unless it came out and I didn't know, or unless it came out in just smaller little chunks that I just didn't notice. So that could be a thing. But I haven't noticed it in my life. But of course, I know many people who have. Why is that? That's hard to say. I'm gonna have to take it up with God. I have no idea.
Yeah, right? It's such a controversial topic too, the mucoid plaque.
Yeah. Because you'll have people like myself who haven't noticed it. Now, I'm sure there aren't as many people who've done the amount of cleansing that I have. But still, there are people that, because they haven't seen it in their life, they'll say, "Oh, it doesn't exist." Well, no. The stuff exists. I mean, we've seen it. People do this stuff all the time.
I believe it exists with what I've seen.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, there are books written about this. Clinicians will see this kind of stuff all the time.
Yeah, but some people get very upset when some people strongly disagree with mucoid plaque. Like it's a very big controversial subject right now. Even if I have somebody on who's talking about a juice cleanse and talking about mucoid plaques, and I'll have some people reach out to me and say, listen, mucoid plaque isn't real. How dare you post about that? Like people are very opinionated on it. And I respect what anyone believes, whether you believe it's real or you believe it's
Yeah.
not. But I think it was a great
Yeah.
question. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have any reason to believe that the pictures, experiences of healers in the field literally pointing to exactly what this blob of crap is and saying, yeah, this is not feast. It's not, right? It's just, so yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's definitely a real thing.
Mhm.
And no, okay. If I got around to every bit of that question. So he asked, have I experienced mucoid plaque, malabsorption with the,
Yeah.
with
And
the
how long
plaque,
it took
which,
you to
yes.
notice that you required less food to stay nourished.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, you bastard. That's a good question. How long? That, frig. It, because it's such a gradual incremental thing, right? It's hard to place an exact pinpoint on when that shift came, because you're probably not going to notice just a shift in one day when you wake up in the morning, right? It is a gradual thing you just chip away at, and then until finally at some end down the road you look back and you're like, oh, you know what, wait a minute, this feels better now, this, okay. I would, over a year
Mm-hmm.
for sure. Yes, I'm trying to be honest with this answer, but it's actually kind of tough to pinpoint. But I would say definitely over a year to start noticing I was needing a little bit less, or I was much happier with less.
Mm-hmm.
To start noticing that I was feeling like really good on where I could just eat like nothing and feel fantastic, and just eat the next day. Probably another year.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Do not let that be any sort, don't let that influence your thinking in any way, because again, there's a common denominator in what we have to do to heal the body, because we're all organisms on the planet Earth. We all are designed in a very similar way, but how your tissues have been adulterated and worn down over time with your lifestyle, with the genetics of your family going back hundreds of years, that's all individual. So my answer, just the caveat here, is that I'm telling you that it took me maybe a year or two, probably has absolutely nothing to do with you and your particular situation. So just know that, in that my answer is probably not helpful, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is more helpful is learning what to eat and how to live, right? And then how your individual body adjusts to these conditions. That is what's individual. But
Mm-hmm.
the how we do it, that can be applied to all of us.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good answer. And Orlando has a couple questions. What brand of good quality juicers would you recommend? And are there any other tools that are practical for a fruitarian to have?
Yes, yes, there are. Juicers. I'm not really great on the wide variety of juicers and whatnot. However, I have an angel juicer. It was big and beefy and expensive, but holy crap, this stuff, the thing works like a dream, and it has been working like a dream ever since I bought it. So I'm not paid by Angel to make any comments and whatnot. So Angel, this is free publicity for you guys, right? Pay me. But yeah, it's an absolutely fantastic machine. I've had no problems using it, and it juices everything, like even simple mono fruits, which a lot of juicers can run into problems with. So my first juicer was an omega juicer, and I don't know how omega has evolved since then. So this would have been what, 4 or 5 years ago now. I don't know how they evolved, but I noticed that the juicer was great for vegetables and whatnot, and mixing fruits with vegetables. But as soon as you throw in single fruits in there, the stuff just plugs all up. So so the angel juicer didn't tend to do that. I think any juicer where you're feeding in stuff horizontally and the augers are also breaking things down with gravity rather than against gravity. Some juicers, you put the stuff in and then a tube runs perpendicular to the table, and there's like, so there's a change in the direction that the food has to go. I think maybe those have more problems, but if it's fed straight down and then gets extracted straight down, then it's a bit easier. But I don't know. I don't know too much about the juicers. The Huron juicer apparently works really, really, really well. So that might be. It's like either way, it's an investment. So if you're gonna get a juicer, get a really good juicer. Don't cheap out on it, because you're gonna have it for a while, and so no point in going for something that's lower quality. What was the next question after that? So
Other tools that are practical for fruitarian. This is a
tools.
great question.
Yeah, that is a really good question. The tool that I use by far more than anything else is a scraper tool. It's basically just a little handheld thing, and with a metal ring, just a sharp edged metal ring, and I use that to scrape the skin, not the skin, but the inside of melons, mangoes, pineapples, just so you can get at all of the material that's closer to the skin that a lot of people just discard when they get close to it. That scraper tool is fantastic. Yeah. I use that all the time.
And can you send me a link? Can you send me a link so I can link it down below?
Yeah, I can. Yeah. Oh, let's see. You mean right now? Oh my God, that's so technologically advanced. How the hell?
No. After, and I'll link it below.
Okay,
yeah. No, I don't even know how to screen share. I wouldn't even how to like put it up. I'm not technical. I'll link it below.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll send you a link after. Other tools. I have a tiny little hand crank spiralizer. It's really good. I don't use it too often, but it's wicked for when I have to prepare food for other people. So making it's a zoodles, okay, either zoodles or carrots. It's great because you can make the nice looking, raw vegan kind of gourmet looking meals, and that's awesome. So hand crank spiralizer is a good tool. A scraper tool I use very often. Outside of that, there's not too much. There's an apple slicer, one of those hand held apple slicer. That can be convenient if you're juicing apples, or but I'm not often juicing the apples, so there are a whole bunch of tools, but if you're asking me personally which ones do I use the most often, the scraper tool is pretty much all I need for most everything. And then the spiralizer is great to be social, or if I just want an occasional treat, and that's about it. There's not too many. Not too many.
Okay. And Orlando also asks, can you talk a little bit about dental care on the fruitarian diet? Because I've heard of people losing their teeth. I think that's like high dried fruit diets, don't you think? Like a lot of dates. What do you think?
Yeah. I guess it could be other things too. Depends on how quickly you make the transition over to high fruits. Some people will just go for it, right? Like with no cleansing, no history at all, just like fruits, okay, and then their body just starts discarding all sorts of stuff. So that could be an issue. If people are, like you said, eating a lot of dried fruits and not rinsing them out after, eating late at night and then letting stuff sit overnight, that can be a bit of a problem. If you brush your teeth too aggressively after eating, let's say you have pineapples and lemon juice or grapefruits or whatnot, and then you brush your teeth really hard after that can be a problem, because you're really scraping and doing a lot of damage to the enamel. So these can all be problems. Okay, so what's the best way to approach this? One of the rest is always a good idea. So have your last meal of the day early as possible, and make sure whatever the last thing is, if it's stuff that does leave residue on your teeth, really make sure to rinse with water well. You can use a water pick. Water picks can be pretty helpful. I don't use one personally, but that's not because I have anything against water picks. They can be really useful. So just rinsing out with water, or use a water pick. and then give yourself time to rest and digest, and for your teeth to recover from whatever the meal is. So intermittent fasting, okay, is a good policy for this. You could even avoid completely brush teeth in the evening and leave it only for the daytime prior to your meals, right? Because like I said, brushing your teeth afterwards can be a bit abrasive. When you do brush, be very gentle. Don't use fluoridated toothpaste. Be careful with what you put in your mouth. Sometimes even just water and light brushing is good. You could use coconut oil. Coconut oil is really great as a toothpaste. Like even just coconut oil. Like you could oil pull. Some people like oil pulling, or just literally take a glob of coconut oil and brush and brush that way. I guess general rules of thumb: be gentle with your teeth when you are brushing. Don't brush too often. Okay, flossing was a good idea. If you're try to avoid the dried fruits if you have teeth sensitivities. Okay, or if you notice that you're getting teeth sensitivities, then drop the dried fruits for now. Try to make up the diet with something else, and get the eating out of the way earlier in the day so you can rest for the next day. All those are good policies for tooth care.
Yeah, great points. Great answer. And Tiffany said, let me start by saying I love the fruitarian lifestyle. I felt like it came to life on a whole new, unexpected way while on fruits only for 5 weeks in April and May. She said, that said, why does Eli not include any green leafy veggies in his diet? And why does he not include sprouts or microgreens?
Why don't I include them? I still have to make a video about this. I want to make like a pretty detailed video about this because it's probably one of the best questions that you could ask. For the sake of simplicity right now, I'll just say a couple of really quick things. I think the most direct way I can answer that question is I don't include them often because I tend to like to eat as intuitively and as in harmony with what my natural sensitivities dictate as possible. So we're not herbivores. Okay? Humans aren't really herbivores. It's why. When's the last time you were on a field of grass playing soccer or just at the park or a picnic or whatnot? Okay. Did the field of grass make you hungry? Like, did you imagine that you were in paradise, dropped in paradise, like food paradise, right? Not really.
Yeah.
You don't really care that you're surrounded by food everywhere, food. Now, imagine how things would be different if the field that you were on was composed entirely of mangoes or some fruit or some anything that excited your fancy, right? What would the experience be like? How different would that feel? It would be interesting, fun. It would be exhilarating. Oh my God, there's food everywhere. But you would be excited, right? It's completely different. And then do the same thought experiment, but put yourself in a field of grass with a bunch of banana leaves and plants growing around you. It'd be nice, but it wouldn't make you hungry. And it's not making you hungry because you're not an herbivore. So why do I not have microgreens and other greens in my diet as much? It's because if I am to be honest about my feeling and my relationship to those things, I don't like them unless they're combined with other flavors where I can simply enjoy the texture of the greens while enjoying the flavor of something else. And usually that something else has to be, this is where, this is what raw vegans do, right? All of us, we pair it with high fat foods because we need some other thing to satisfy our satiety because the vegetables are just so low in calories and by themselves, not very good tasting, right? There are some exceptions, like carrots are pretty tasty, beets are pretty tasty on their own. But in terms of the leafy green variety, why doesn't Eli like kale? Well, have you tasted kale? It's gross, right? It's awful. This stuff's awful.
I like kale, but yeah.
Yeah, but no, nobody is buying kale and just eating it.
You
as
know what
is.
though? Sometimes when I go to the farmer's market, I'll buy kale and I'll just be like, wow, it's so beautiful. And I'll just break off some
Yeah,
kale and a cherry tomato and eat it together. But not alone,
yeah,
I
yeah,
guess. Like, yeah, I'm not eating the kale just alone ever. I eat it with
exactly.
something sweet. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. No, nobody is ever taking just a whole bunch of just dry, leafy green veggies and eating them as is. You can, and so, like lettuce is pretty tasty, right? Like I can eat a whole handful of lettuce, and I'm like, this is actually not bad.
Mm-hmm.
Just as a meal, it really doesn't excite you in any significant way. And all I'm doing is I'm being honest about that feeling, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just
Mm-hmm.
being honest. So that's why. And again, I do need to go into this more in an actual lecture. But that's really the best way I can describe it. So the microgreens, yeah, they can be great, right? But they can taste really nice. But if it's a competition
Mm-hmm.
between me coming home from a hard day at work and cutting open a honeydew, or just grabbing like 5 6 apples or 5 6 pears and a bowl of arugula, I will never choose that bowl of arugula if I'm being honest with myself. I might choose the arugula if I mixed it with a whole bunch of other things,
Mm-hmm.
but what I'm doing is I'm getting in the way of my natural relationship to arugula. Whereas if I was an herbivore, there would be that arugula would be that would be the object of my attention. Like that would drive me nuts, and you would eat that because it's wonderful and that's what you're designed to eat. But it's just we're just not designed in the same way as herbivores are. So we
Mm-hmm.
don't have the same affinity towards vegetables as herbivores would. And I'm just being dead honest without any cultural hangups, without any judgments. I'm just going off that and recognizing that it's probably that instinct is probably there for a reason.
Mm-hmm. And I want to ask, do you feel more calm on the fruitarian diet?
100%.
Mm-hmm.
100%. Yes, and I think it's because uh, a raw food, clean diet tends to soothe the nerves and to
Mm-hmm.
eliminate. See, when you do a lifestyle like this or similar, right, a raw food diet, if you're doing it without all of the other seasonings and all these things that we add to food to make them flavorful and rich, you're eliminating a lot of stimulants. And by eliminating all these stimulants and by focusing on stuff that just is hydrating and nourishing, you end up nourishing your nervous system. And what that looks like on the other side is just a calmer demeanor. Like you're just this is hard to describe, but did I notice this change over time? Absolutely. Yes. I did notice
Mm-hmm.
that it took a lot more to perturb my sense of well-being, right? It took a
Mm-hmm.
lot more to upset my equanimity.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, People saying nasty things, whether it's this or that. I just found that after living this way, it was a breath of fresh air, like a breath of,
Mm-hmm.
oh
Mm-hmm.
man, not so bad. That's yes. So you do notice, or I did notice this in my life. I'm sure a lot of other people would notice the same thing.
Mm-hmm. And the next question is, what do you say to people who feel the fruitarian diet is an unbalanced approach to raw plant-based living?
Um, how? Uh,
Because they
I don't
think it's,
know.
yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because what what other what other animal would you pose this question to? What other life form would you pose this question to?
Mm-hmm.
I walk over to the next hyena you see and say,
Mm-hmm.
hyena, your diet seems really unbalanced. Like you're eating a
Mm-hmm.
lot of dead carcasses. Why don't you include more water content rich fruits and vegetables? Why don't you have some chia seeds? Why don't you have The hyena is going to look at you and just, tear your nuts off and eat it and say, get the hell out of here, right? I don't know. It seems like that question is reserved only for human beings. And we ignore the entire bulk of our experience in reality that tells us that that question is very foolish to ask of any other life form on Earth except humans. And why do we ask humans? Because we've been cultured to believe that a good diet is the inclusion of all things that make good marketable products, right? And I don't buy it. Unfortunately, I just don't buy it. And it seems that this horribly unbalanced way of living for me has resulted in the alleviation of lots of health complications and annoyances that I used to live with. And it's made me feel better. It's made me drop all this unnecessary weight that I had. My digestion's better. I don't smell anymore. My sleep is fantastic. Blah 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 blah. Right? And it's yeah. So I would suggest that everybody have a pretty unbalanced diet, right? In the direction of what is compatible with your physiology, right? It's the inclusion of everything that is something that nature that's foreign to organisms on the planet, right? Nobody eats to the inclusion of all things, right? They eat a very, very narrow diet, and that's pretty much it. So now, in so saying that, what I'm not saying is never eat all the things that you can eat on a raw food diet. I'm absolutely not saying that. I have no problem, making a little experiment, having some fun with just a raw gourmet meal if I want here or there. It's not that you should not do that, but it's just not necessary. Like, you don't have to include the everything and everything of what you could eat in a raw diet, right? You don't have to. It's a small amount of foods that can do you very, very well, and is probably closer to what the intention was for an organism.
Okay. All right. Well, the next question says his channel is so underrated. The wealth of information in it is gold. Question: has he studied anything nutrition related?
Oh, period?
Yeah.
Nutrition related?
They're asking, have you studied anything nutrition related? You're funny. Yeah. That's the question. They're saying your channel's amazing, which it is, and I'll link your channel below. And they're asking, I guess, have you studied anything nutrition related? I guess they mean officially studied. I know you've studied so much on your own though, right?
Yeah. So I'm just trying to figure out what they mean. Yes, I've read the conventional books as well as the more esoteric and the more natural hygiene. Like, yes, I've perused them all, and they're all great books. Like, recently, Fiber Fuel is a great book. 80/10, Doug Graham's book, fantastic. John Robbins' Diet for a New America. Yes, of course, I've had to read these just the same, and they're all good books. You can pick out fantastic information from all of them. It's just that you have to discern. Well, if you're asking me, you always have that level of discernment with each and every bit of literature that you got, right? It's funny, even the lecturers that we love in the vegan community and the plant-based community, every once in a while when they're asked about raw foods, it's funny. You can hear them slip up a little bit, and just by what they say, it's almost like they've admitted, or they admit that, yeah, the raw foods you're probably going to be the best, but they don't do them because of just comfort and taste and whatnot. And every once in a while, I've listened to these lectures, and I'm like, you just admitted that the raw food approach is probably the most nutritious, is the most healing, how all of the best and most dramatic miracle healings that we read about, it's always because of a limited or more raw food diet than anything else, right? That's when we get the most dramatic healing. And to eat in the same way that gives you dramatic healing is probably a pretty good policy. Yeah. So okay, wait. To answer your question, yes, I have. Yes, I have read conventional nutrition books. Earl Mindell's Bible of Nutrition, or Nutrient Bible, the Nutrient Bible. Yeah, I have this. That's a good reference just to keep in the home. Yeah, there's lots of books that I've talked to you about that.
Yeah. And what do you think about the Hippocrates Institute, where their focus is more like greens and they say like fruits? Because I mean, a lot of people who go to Hippocrates, I think their health is in like a really extreme situation in a lot of cases, not all cases. Some people just want to go there to reach their best health. But I think they believe that the sugars, even fruit sugars, can feed like severe bad diseases and stuff like that. So what do you think about that? Like, do you think for some people, maybe Hippocrates can work, where it's like green juices, greens, microgreens, and kind of avoiding the fruits?
Yeah, that's a good question. Hippocrates will work for anybody and everybody. They do so much good work. And just by virtue of eliminating all of the really obvious landmines from cultural eating, even just with that, you're almost guaranteed some level of health. They are so the good things that they do all the right things, right? So they're eliminating processed foods.
True.
They're eliminating majority of cooked foods, right? They're putting into your system high water content, greens and veggies, high antioxidant food, high ORAC value foods. So they do all these wonderful things. So if you follow the Hippocrates diet, you're gonna heal, right? You're gonna start getting better. I don't understand their deathly fear of fruits. This is the question that I've asked myself as well. I have no idea what literature they're going off of to get this notion. It's completely baffling to me. So I don't have the answer. It's confused the hell out of me. And but as much as I love watching Brian Clements lectures and what, like, I have whole playlists. I love fantastic lecture. I learn so much from him. But his irrational fear of fruit, I don't have the foggiest idea why. Yeah, apples. These people are worried about apples.
Apples make me feel incredible. I feel like they're like one of the most high vibe foods. When I eat like a Honeycrisp apple, I don't think there's much else that makes me feel so good.
Oh my gosh! And what could possibly be more natural, more intuitive than these plants that literally are dangling right in front of your bloody face and just like, hey, eat me, please. They look fantastic. They look beautiful. They taste beautiful. They're higher calorie content than any of your vegetable spectrum foods. Excuse me. So they're gonna satiate you by far more than the leafy green vegetable variety. It's just, what could be more natural or intuitive? And I can't imagine that they've come up with this idea that naturally growing fruits are something that you would have to seriously limit.
I know. I think it's because some people think, the fruit, even fruit sugars will feed like unhealthy levels of like yeast, candida, cancer, like all these things, some people really have that belief, but then there's other people, at the opposite end of it too. It's interesting to me. I don't know.
Yeah. It's a good question. I'm not sure. And I think it have to do with this deadly fear of fruit and this, oh my God, this tiresome correlation of fructose with high fructose corn syrup and processed fructose. Like, I don't know how this has still survived.
Yeah.
These are completely different entities. This is the same level of thinking that tells you, avoid water because it can be used to make a hydrogen bomb.
Yeah. That's where I think, you know what?
I get it. Yeah.
I interviewed Dr.
Sorry, go
Doug
ahead.
Graham. No, I interviewed Dr. Doug Graham recently, and we had a
Mhm.
good talk on that stuff too. It's just so interesting to me. And I think even in 80-10-10, or like a lot of the stuff he says, like studies show that like even meat raises insulin levels more than like the fruits and like other things. And like, it's just, you know what, too? Like I eat a pretty high fruit diet and like a lot of like fresh squeezed orange juice, stuff like that. And I just had my blood sugars and my blood work done and like everything's perfect. And before I was raw vegan, I had major blood sugar problems. I was at the hospital all the time for fainting and electrolyte problems and all these things. So I just think like, yeah, there's such a fear around the fruits, but I mean, everybody's got to do what's best for them. But I love the fruits.
I don't know. I mean, for natural fructose in fruit, like the fructose molecule doesn't require a carrier to get into your cells. So it just shuttles right into the cells without the need for insulin. So I mean, so if we're talking about insulin resistance, there is nothing better than fruit for a diabetic, a type 2 diabetic, to just actually reverse insulin resistance, right? The fruit is the best food for that, absolutely. And then your blood sugar, of course, will go up because that's what food should do. Like I hate this term blood sugar spike because again, this is what you find all the time in the health community, right? They say, "Oh, fruit spike your blood sugar." Spike. It goes up. Yes, your blood sugar raises in response to food. That's exactly physiologically what should happen when you're eating your food. It's like, oh my God. Your
True.
heart
Yeah,
rate
that's right.
spikes after a bout of activity. So you should avoid activity because you don't want to have your heart rate spike. Well, of course your heart rate bloody spikes when you're doing activity because that's the normal response to activity. The normal response to food is a raise in blood sugar that goes back down to physiological normal levels when you are no longer eating. Just like your heart rate goes back to normal after you finish exercising. This is how it's supposed to be. So we just put this term spike on the thing because we have candies and donuts and soda pops that do raise your blood sugar like unnaturally high and fast, right? But that's not what we're talking about with fruit. So it's just weird. I mean, I don't know how we haven't learned,
Me too.
better
Yeah.
than this.
You know what? I was hypoglycemic before being raw vegan. Like I had, like I said, major blood sugar problems. I think maybe now that I think about it, I might have even developed diabetes by now, or like at some point, had I not gone down this route. Well,
and something people often forget is that insulin is responsible for taking your the sugars out of your blood and shuttling them into the cells, but it's also responsible for taking proteins out of your bloodstream and making use. So your body needs protein. Your body needs to release insulin to deal with protein. Protein is insulinogenic. You'll have a piece of steak, like a big steak, will raise your blood sugar more than an equivalent amount of I don't know, fruit. Absolutely.
Yeah, I know.
It's a delayed onset, right? So it'll take a lot longer for your blood sugar to be really high or your insulin level to be really high if you eat those protein-rich foods. But it does get there. Yeah. Protein is insulinogenic, and so people go on these high protein diets to avoid blood sugar spikes, end up getting these massive blood sugar spikes and being confused as hell, right? So yeah, I mean, with that kind of stuff, yeah, it's a funny thing, but fruits, vegetables, high carbohydrate rich foods, these are going to be your best defense against insulin resistance and the fear of fruit doing metabolic damage to you. I mean, I don't know where it comes from. It's strange.
Okay, so Fire of Life says, I'd like to know which book has been the most influential for Eli in regards to natural laws and esoteric knowledge.
I did actually. I just put up this morning a video on exactly that. Hilton Hiltema's books have been very, very helpful, and he's got a whole slew of them. So any of Hilton Hiltema's works you can get and you can read through them, and yeah, they've been very helpful. A lot of the natural hygiene literature is also very, very helpful in that regard. There are a bunch of Dr. Shelton and his associates. They put out manuals back in the earlier mid 1900s that were really hard to get. I originally had a tough time getting a hold of these, but a lot of those were quite helpful as well. Yeah. What else? Some esoterica that I liked was with Manly P. Hull, who's, I'm reserved in saying that because he has a reputation to be associated with evil, and it's true. It is true, but not at the same time. And so you have to exercise again a little bit of a level of discernment when it comes to people who have been branded as evil. But if you look at the work and just take a look at the literature, it's there are really some gems that you can pull out there that are really, really, really helpful in understanding how natural laws work and that body of science, of natural science. CW Leadbeater was another fantastic, occultist that had some really great things to say and teach. There's a whole bunch of individuals. Leo Tolstoy. I'm getting a little bit. I'm drifting a bit off here, but Leo Tolstoy's essays had some really good essays on morality and how to approach diet with your morality. Let's see. I would say those are the major influences. So the whole body of natural hygiene with Dr. Shelton and associates, Hilton Hotema, who else? Hereward Carrington has had some really, really good literature. I think, oh gosh, I'm forgetting the name of the book. Let's see here. I know it's somewhere. No. The Natural Food of Man. The Natural Food of Man by Hereward Carrington. That was a really good one. If you, any of the natural hygiene literature, if you kind of just take a look at the source material, you'll be able to find all sorts of books that are going to really, really help. But there still are a couple that I'm missing. I know T. Lobsang Rampa. There's some Eastern sticks, Blavatsky. She's got some really interesting literature as well that goes into all this kind of stuff. So there's quite a bit. There's quite a bit, and I've taken little bits and pieces from everyone that I felt was relevant.
Okay, amazing. And Lotus says, I would love to hear if Eli experienced regeneration of his teeth at all, like healing minor cavities, or if he has any reading material or proof he has seen of tooth regeneration. I am a fruitarian and I really, really want my teeth to heal.
I never noticed much with my teeth. Like, it was a very neutral ride for me in my particular journey. So I don't have good experience with that. With me, I had noticed from time to time if I was doing exactly what I said. We were talking about what not to do with your teeth. When I was doing that, so eating lots of dried food, not brushing my teeth or cleaning my teeth or rinsing with my teeth in the evening, letting that stuff just sit. If I did that too often, too many days in a row, then I'll get some sensitivity. And then when I stopped doing that, then after a couple of days, okay, things subsided. So aside from that, I never really noticed any major changes with my teeth. So I guess I would want to ask what she has. Is it a she? Was it a she?
I don't know. I don't know.
Sure. Okay.
It doesn't say.
Yeah, I guess. It doesn't say. I guess I would want to ask, what their particular complication was, what they were experiencing. But so like just the general guidelines that we outlined a bit earlier, follow those as closely as possible. If it does seem that you're trying to stick to a more based diet and you're getting a lot more pain and it's not subsiding or getting worse, then there's nothing wrong with scaling back a little bit, go more on, head more to the vegetable side of the, of your options, and then see what happens, see what changes. If you start to get less sensitivity, great, right? Maybe that's helpful. And then you can try going back to more of the fruit-based style later on once your teeth recover. So there's a little bit of detective work to do here. But yeah, I mean, I think we went over pretty much the major things that you could look at with when it comes to teeth.
Yeah. Okay. Ed says, I'm all for the raw vegan diet, but I can't get my head around just eating fruit. I don't do well with sugar. I also wonder how he's getting all his nutrients. I'm sure he said before when you spoke that he doesn't supplement, right? Yeah, you don't supplement, right?
No,
do you feel like you're getting everything? Like you feel,
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're funny.
I mean, I yes, I feel like I'm getting everything. It's one of those things that if you dwell on nutrition, it will just drive you nuts, because there's always going to be something that you're missing. You're never going to get all the nutrient profile, in a day, every day. This is not realistic. This is not realistic for any organism to have to worry about, right? What you have to worry about is what is food for you. And I think we can, once we start trotting that reductionist type of thinking where we are dwelling on nutrition, again, it will, I think it'll just add more stress to your life. And if you're willing to trust your own design, your own body, I think that just the mental ease that it affords you without worrying about the nutrition. And I'm not saying nutrition is bogus or garbage. I'm not saying that. But what I will say is that the bulk of nutrition that we need to worry about is in the fruits themselves. It's all there. It's just not in those concentrations that we imagine are necessary to get what we're told is the full nutrient profile. The full nutrient profile is there in the fruits for me, right? Or for my understanding, and for everybody else, it is there. It's just, again, it's just not, you're not going to get the same quantity of protein in an apple that you would find in whatever nutritional yeast, or if you're a meat eater, meats. But it's there. So yeah, you get everything. And no, I don't supplement. And feeling great, feeling fine. So I would say that sometimes we pay a bit more mind to the nutrition than we probably should. But that might be irresponsible of me to say, just because of where we're at right now, because we're a very left-brained, very reductionist, oriented civilization. But yeah, the nutrition thing, it's just, it's funny because I always imagine, how would we ever know? Like, I mean, why would any organism have to wrestle with the microscopic, unseen world of their food? I really don't think we're supposed to know. I think we're supposed to know the pulled back macroscopic look of what is food, and eat that. And that the nutritional aspect is taken care of by Mother Nature, not your intellect. Right? And so, and the problem with the nutrition thing is what ends up inevitably happening, is that you start eating to satisfy an intellectual nutritional criteria. And if you do that, then that's the wrong way to go about it, right? Nobody's eating chia and flaxseed because they just desperately want to eat chia and flaxseed. They're eating it because they are told nutritionally that they must satisfy a requirement. right? But if it weren't for that, we wouldn't be doing these things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we get into trouble, is when we think that we can outsmart nature, right? Outsmart our own instincts that have been programmed into it. And usually it doesn't work in our favor when we do that. So,
okay, good answer. And someone says, lemons are acidic based fruits, but are very astringent and alkalizing. Can Eli explain how an acid fruit is alkalizing? Or maybe it's not, and it's the astringent properties that are beneficial.
yeah. Oh, yeah, that's a good question. It is alkalizing, but it's not because the lemon itself, if you were to actually measure the pH of the lemon itself, yes, it is acidic. Okay. The difference is in how all of the elements that make up the lemon, how your body reacts to them. Okay, which creates an alkaline environment. So with all of the minerals and the phytonutrients and all the stuff that comes part and parcel with the lemon, once it goes into your system, the response that your body makes, right, to the lemon, that's what creates an alkaline ash or an alkaline byproduct. So it's not the thing itself that's acidic that should worry you, because it shouldn't, right? And it doesn't. And it does create an alkaline byproduct. Okay, so it's the byproduct that we're interested in. Mm-hmm. So anytime we're talking about alkaline foods, we're always focusing on the byproduct that is made by those foods. And if the byproduct and the way that your body responds to it creates an alkaline chemistry, then it's an alkaline food, right? If it creates an acidic byproduct, then that's an acidic food or an acid forming food. So yeah, that's a good question. The lemon is itself acidic, but your body deals with it in such a way that creates an alkaline byproduct, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good answer. And okay, Drake the Great says, I've been raw vegan for 11 days now. Fruitarian is the ultimate goal. I'd love some tips on eventually making the transition. That's a great question. How to transition to fruitarian. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a good question. How has he been? I mean, he hasn't said, but living raw for a good amount of time is probably helpful.
11 days. So, yeah, he's been raw.
Oh, you've been raw for 11 days. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. First of all, keep doing that. I mean, 11 days is, still young, right? Still very young. So I understand that the fruit-based lifestyle or the fruitarian lifestyle is the end goal, but don't rush yourself, right? We always have to cultivate a respect for the damage that we've done to our bodies in the past year. So give yourself like a break, right? Give yourself some time to make the necessary adjustments. Okay. If you're new to raw food diet, keep living on that raw food diet for now, right? Give yourself some time. Let yourself adapt, let yourself adjust, let yourself start to feel the effects of going on raw food first, right? Experiment. Give your body time to experience all of these wonderful types of raw foods that you could possibly have, right? So give yourself that time. Eventually, right, what you can do is you can just start to scale back and change the proportion of certain elements in your diet, and you play it by ear, just step by step, slowly. So just don't rush. I would say, just don't rush it. Have fun with it. If it's only day 11 raw food diet, it's so much fun. It is a lot of fun. You can experiment with different recipes, raw food recipes, and things you haven't tried before. Like this is the time to do that. All of those things you've never tried before. It's so much fun. Have fun with it, right? Don't cut yourself off from that too quickly in a rush to get to the high fruit diet, right? Allow yourself time to transition, right? Allow yourself that time, I would say is probably the best thing. You will naturally intuit when the right time is to start shifting, right? But yeah, don't let it cause you anxiety. Don't keep it in your head. Oh, I'm doing damage to myself if I'm not 100. No. Just take it easy. And as for some tricks to making that transition when it does come, there's no, I wouldn't say there's any real magic to tell you or reveal to you. It's more just, yeah, letting yourself really, really feel when that timing is right, and then experimenting. Choose 1 or 2 days during the week where you eat a lot less vegetable food than fruit. See how you feel. If it feels great, okay, awesome. Then do it again next week. Maybe add 1 more day, or just maybe add, no vegetables that day. See how you feel, and just gauge it from there. So like, there's nothing secret that I'm keeping from you here. It's just go off the feeling. Obviously, eliminate all the obvious landmines. All the obvious things that we shouldn't be eating. You just avoid those. Stick with the raw food diet. Give yourself time. Have respect for your body and the damage that's been done over the prior years by not rushing into things, because we don't want to do that. And yeah, have fun with it. Just have fun with it, man.
And I just want to ask, were you always like this good, amazing person, even when you were on Standard American? I have to ask, like, you're such an amazing, kind, like, just great person with, like, were you always this way, or like, did you experience a big change in the diet? Maybe that's hard for you to answer, but I'm just wondering, or like, were you a jerk before on Standard American? I just would like to know, like,
Oh my God.
Or you don't have to answer it too.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I mean, I might be biased, but I think I'm always a pretty good person.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was raised well, though. I was raised with a lot of love in the family, and I was definitely a good kid. I was definitely a good kid. So I think there's some soul qualities that I just come intact with. And everyone will have this. Everyone will have a certain set of characteristics that don't really attribute from mom or dad, that just seem to come from somewhere, just somewhere random. And I think that's your soul quality. And so there's probably a percentage of my character that comes from that. I definitely wasn't perfect, that's for sure. And this lifestyle, what it did was it caused me to become very interested in mental reform as well, mental and spiritual reform. So there are a lot of things that started to change as my diet changed. And I think this is one of those things everyone will notice. Like, you start cleaning up your diet, what happens is that tends to want to echo out into the rest of your being. And so there are other elements of your life that wants to clean up as well. So this is something that a lot of us will probably experience, and I certainly noticed in my experience as well. But I think I've tended to be a pretty good guy for most of my life. Like, I mean, I talk about alcohol. I was never, as much as I loved being social and gregarious and had a great time with my friends, I was never, there was something I intuited about abstaining from the whole drinking culture, the whole smoking, and getting high on marijuana and pot and all that kind of stuff. Something about that just I was a bit spiritually repulsed by. And where that came from, I mean, I did have good parents, but it just, I don't know, I just felt different in that sense. So yeah, I don't know, I would say for the most part, yeah, my character's been pretty similar. Similar over the years.
That's good.
But as of now, yeah, it's definitely more calm, and just internal changes, like with how my thinking is oriented, all that, over time as the diet changed. So
Okay. And Dreamtime 369 said, my question is, how do you stay warm in the winter eating fruits only? It's a good question.
Oh yeah, that's a good question. Your body temperature is definitely going to drop a little bit, which is probably what you want, because it means you're not running a bloody furnace on the inside. You don't want a super high burning metabolism. right? We're always told that we want a super fast, super high metabolism. That really, like a machine, and we're not machines. I know we're not machines, but like a machine, if you always run a super high metabolism, it means that your body is working really, really hard and burning all the time, and it burns you out as a being eventually. Again, what you want is a slower, more relaxed metabolism, so the machinery works less hard and sustain that over time. That's what you'd like. So yes, if you're not eating any of these stimulating foods, the whole cooked food variety and all the stimulants that just really excite the metabolism, yeah, if you don't eat any of those, you're gonna run a cooler system, okay, which is a good thing. So I just wanted to add that little caveat. How do I stay warm in the winter? This is something that I never really thought about much either. Besides, if I sorry. Yeah, if I get cold, then you just throw on some extra clothes or throw on some extra clothes. That is my solution.
Yeah.
Nothing really that I could do about that. But to be honest, over time, I noticed that was far less of an issue. Maybe, oh gosh, I'm so sorry.
It's okay. If you need to get it, it's okay.
No, I thought I put this thing on silent. Okay, stop yelling at me, folks. I felt that was more of a problem in like the first couple of years, and then after that, I don't know. It seems to never really be an issue.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me at all either.
Yeah, it doesn't bother you. It doesn't really bother me. It's like not something that I think about.
And yeah, we live in Toronto, Canada, for anybody wondering.
Yeah, exactly. So we get the whole cold climate, right? If you're fasting, like if you're in the middle of a fast, be careful then, because you'll definitely feel the cold more. Okay, so that's for sure. So middle of winter time, you're in the middle of a fast. Yeah, make sure put your heat on. Make sure or just put on a whole bunch of warm clothes before bed, because you'll feel it more then. But if I'm just in the regular process of eating, again, there's no secret that I can reveal to you. If I'm cold, I just throw on a couple more clothes, but it's not something that bothers me during the day, like during the regular course of the week. So yeah, I mean, this is one of the troubles of being, warm-blooded tropical species, and we live all over the globe, right? It's we're always outside of our natural habitat, so it's just one of those things that we kind of have to deal with unless we move to a warmer climate. Right? So
true.
Yeah.
Do you think you'll ever move somewhere warmer?
Possibly. Yeah. That's been on my mind. Yeah, it's possible. I think if I can transition to making more of my livelihood come from doing stuff like this with you guys in the health community, if I can make more of my livelihood from that, then maybe that would be a good time to move out to the tropics, because the tropics are great. But until then, yeah, as of right now, no immediate plans, but I definitely think that's somewhere in the future.
Yeah, nice. Okay, so SB says, my question is what to do when eating fruitarian for about a month, but feeling a substantial loss of energy. So I guess they're not feeling as much energy. What do you think they need to do, or they're doing wrong maybe?
Okay, all right. That's so they've been on it for about a month. Yeah, that's still very young. It's still very young. And again, it's one of those questions where I need to ask you a whole bunch of other questions too, because it depends on what came prior to that will inform me as to why you might not be feeling as much energy, and whether you should introduce some other leafy greens or nuts and seeds and all that kind of stuff.
And you do coaching too, right? You do coaching if I link your stuff below?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she can get in touch. I do consultations as well. So if you just go into any of my videos, then in the description there, it'll be how you can get in touch with me. So yeah, if you're feeling a lack of energy, then it first of all, it's not that something's wrong. I noticed the exact same things too, and for more than a month, right, I felt dips in my energy.
Mm.
Not that it was enough to stop me from doing anything. Like, I was still exercising and doing it, but I would notice, yeah, from time to time, like, oh, okay, feeling a little bit dip in my energy today. You have to expect that this is going to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, there's no telling how long it will take your body to reconfigure itself to deal with these new conditions, which are much more health promoting and healing, as it forms every single tissue in your body, right? So again, we have to respect that. Moral of the story, respect the damage that we've done
True.
systems. So 1 month down the road, you have to understand is nothing. It's not even, you haven't even scratched the surface of the work that your body wants to do. So this is where, again, where we have to cultivate faith that Mother Nature is making the right decisions. And so if she is taking a little bit of energy away from you temporarily, and you are doing what you're supposed to be doing, then have faith that there's a reason for that, and then eventually things will start to harmonize for you. And of course, the common sense thing, if you notice that things are definitely not right, okay, you notice a horn growing out of your neck or something, like, okay, that's not right, right? Maybe then start to scale back, make some changes, okay? But in the absence of awful symptomology and just some general discomforts when you make this transition, recognize that this is probably what happens when you change to a healthier diet. It's that your body is going to go into some fluctuations to make the adjustments to cast out all the stuff that was there. And in the process, it might feel strange energy dips from time to time. And then at some point, it won't. It'll feel really damn good. Right?
And do you think maybe sometimes they're not eating enough and they need more calories, or no? If that's the
That's
case, or no?
possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah. If I would say if their hunger calls for it, yeah. So I wouldn't eat more because I have less energy, but I'm not actually hungry. So I might not do that.
True. Yeah.
But yeah, if the hunger calls for it, oh, absolutely. Just go ahead and eat, right? Go ahead and eat. As long as long as it's not like the higher fat variety.
Okay.
But
And
yeah, I certainly never worried about that. If I was hungry, I ate. Like, I did not worry at all about whether I was overeating or whatnot. I just ignored it completely and just paid attention to my hunger.
yeah. Okay. And someone said, how did Eli come up with his Freemelon Society name? I get it's a play on the Freemason, but just wondering if there's a story behind it, because it made me chuckle the first time seeing his channel name and him.
Yeah. Yeah. When I spent that week or so thinking of, like, okay, what do I call this channel? I was thinking about what I wanted to stylize this as. So basically, I fancied it. I imagined it like a school, like a place where people could come to learn some information that was uncommon, I guess a little esoteric, broken away from cultural contraptions, where they would learn things about reality and nature and truth and morality and all this, right? That was separate from what was conventional in culture. So I realized, I'm like, oh my God, a secret society is basically the closest thing that echoes these characteristics. And so, yeah, Freemasonry, obviously, a very evil institution. I have no Masonic affiliations of any kind. So there's none of that. But it's just the idea of a school of learning where we're learning the natural laws of reality applied to health and wellness. The structure of a secret society jumped at me, and so I loved melons. Watermelon was always my favorite fruit, and so all of us, it just jumped out in Freemelon. I'm like, oh my God, that's so ridiculous! I have to use it. So good. So that's pretty much where it came from. It's because of the structure and the classroom setting, just like the mystery schools of old. That was the feel that I was going for, and it seemed too perfect, so I had to do it.
That's good. I like it.
Yeah.
And somebody said, why did he switch over to raw? What is he doing so what do you do when, well, we talked a little bit about why you went raw and stuff, but they also asked, so what do you do when someone invites you to a restaurant? And okay, yeah, and then sometimes people say to me, you'll only live once, you have to try the whole food. What is he thinking about that?
Yeah. Okay, so answer the first question. What do I do when I go to a restaurant?
Yeah.
Either A, nothing. I just don't do anything. Maybe I'll just drink some water or something. And or B, I just bring my own food. That's a really easy, like that's a really easy thing for me to do. What's hard for people is that your own mind is the enemy.
Mhm.
People will go out to a social setting and they're gonna feel like they're being judged if they're not fitting in. They're gonna feel that, oh, okay, no, this is weird. This is okay. That is the problem. You already know what to do. Like if you know exactly what your diet is and you know that you feel good on it and you don't want to err or budge, then you have the answers already. Just bring your food to the restaurant. It's your mind that says, oh, I'm going to be judged or whatever. I'm going to look strange. Yeah. Okay. So if you toss all of that out, all of that nonsense out, then you're left with is the simple answer you've always known: just bring your own food, right? Or do nothing and just enjoy the social company without actually eating, and ignore what you feel that looks like and all that noise. Okay. So with me, it was just I understood and recognized my priorities. Okay. I know that I don't care what everyone else is doing, but I'm just gonna, look after how I feel and what I know I want to eat. And so that's it. Now I can also make the choice to eat something at a restaurant. I never do, never happened. But well, like we went to Raw Aura that one day, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I wouldn't have any major problems about eating raw aura for a day, just as a treat, right? I don't, like I haven't before, but if I wanted to, I could. So you can make these, intelligent choices if you choose to. But by and large, yeah, I just do nothing, or I bring my own food. Now, as for the second question, when people say, "Oh, you only live once," blah blah blah, I get it, but what they don't know is because they haven't experienced what living feels like on this side of the fence, they imagine that living is eating stimulating food. What I would say is that no, my definition of living is a bit more divorced from stimulating food. And for me, living has much more to do with breathing cleanly every day, not being sick ever. All of these wonderful things that happen when you clean up your diet, how you feel, how all of that. It's just that you raise your standard about what living is, and living becomes less associated with just poisoning yourself with really stimulating food. So it's just two people using the same wording but with different standards. Right? So yeah, you only live once. You might as well do this. I'm like, yeah, you only live once. I would say so. Yeah, you only live once. You might as well do what I'm doing because it makes you feel so good, and your whole life changes for the better. So
it's so true.
Yeah. It's a funny thing. It's a funny thing when people.
I agree. Positive Pam says, is Eli growing any fruits of his own? Also, does he have any fruitarian communities that he follows or recommends? I'm a raw vegan fruitarian and I'm looking for a local community. That's a good question. You have one, don't you?
That's a really great question. So as of right now, I don't grow too many things at home, save for some tomatoes. So like just cherry tomatoes. But other than that, no, not too much. No. I'm gonna have to move, like once I move out of my current place when I have like my own yard or whatnot, that'll make it a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
But living where I do, it's just not not as easy. But as for communities, and there are a couple Facebook communities I like. Professor Spira's little Facebook community. They've got some great people there. I have my own Facebook group. So if you don't know me, you can head to Facebook, and there's the Freemelon Society group that you can join there. There are a couple other raw food fruitarian communities on Facebook that are appropriately titled, like Fruitarian, living group, all that kind of stuff. There are a couple, yes, but I'm not on them very often. Like I'm part of them, but I don't like peruse as often. Don't know. So that's it. Yeah, it's kind of a tough question. I don't know. I don't know of that many. I don't know of that many. And most all of my associating or answer seeking is coming from books, really.
Mm-hmm.
Books and and lectures like everybody else. But that's where I get all of my that's where I get my fix for yeah.
Okay. And Claire says, Eli, you're awesome. I know he would answer this one well. I'm almost all fruitarian, but I still cave. Can he answer why I may have felt satisfied after eating 2 vegan burger patties the other day? These were like the processed Baca brand. Thanks.
Yeah. Yes. We feel satisfied because what these foods are doing is they're playing on your natural instincts and drives to seek out calorie-rich food. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So anytime we cave to these types of cravings, right? You have to remember that you don't forget food. Like if there's one thing you're programmed to do, it's not forget the taste and the feel of food. So if you log in 10, 15 years of eating these highly stimulating foods that are completely absent and foreign in nature, right? Your body learns. And because you as a species want to conserve energy, right? One of the programs that you run on is just conservation of energy. And and these highly concentrated foods, they tell you when you eat them is that, oh my God, this is so good for survival. Oh my God, I just have to eat a little bit of it and it packs on all these calories. So what you start to do intellectually or subconsciously is just associate that food with good survival. And it makes perfect sense for you as an organism surviving in the field, right? So when you remove these foods from your diet, it will take time. It might take a couple of these relapses, right? It might happen because you are working against the food industry, knowing how you operate and using your instincts against you. Okay, so it is not your fault. Your body is working perfectly fine. It's working exactly as it should. It's going after highly concentrated food sources because that makes the most sense in terms of survival. So this is what the food manufacturing world knows very, very well. So they're all they're doing is they're playing on the natural instinct that you have and hijacking it, so that when you eat their food, it just drives your pleasure centers buck wild because they're like, what the hell is this? I got to go after this, right? So let's just put you in a natural thing now where you live your whole life never knowing anything that was unnaturally concentrated or processed or whatnot. You would never have any of these hangups because you never would have any association with these foods, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here's, so to wrap it up, I'll tell you, don't feel guilty, okay? Just accept the relapse as part of the process, okay? Don't guilt yourself like crazy. Just understand that there's nothing wrong with you, okay? There's you don't have to go into any psychotherapy, fiction, whatnot. These are highly, highly addictive foods, and they're designed like that on purpose because they know that it hijacks your pleasure centers and makes you want more. That is what marketing and the food industry is, okay? So if the more time that you can spend away from those, the more chunks of times between relapses, okay, if you want to put it that way, the more you do that, eventually those periods will get longer and longer and longer until your body starts to really, really learn, hey, you know, this is what I want and what I really, really want. And after one particular relapse, right? Yeah, it can take like a good 3-4 weeks. You might have little spikes in cravings, right? And it's a physiologically predictable thing that happens. You can have little craving spikes 2-3 weeks down the road after you've had whatever this crazy processed food meal is. But if you can get over those tiny little humps, it's like it's a game changer, right? So let's say you've eaten that meal, okay, abstain from that meal, and 2-3 weeks down the road, expect, this is where it's empowering to know how you work, expect that you will have a spike in cravings. I don't know where it's going to come, but at some point you're going to be like, oh, I could really go for this. Know that it's coming ahead of time. Understand yourself. And if you can ignore that little blip, then you'll be able to go for a lot longer. Maybe you might have a smaller, even smaller blip down the road, know it's coming and avoid it, and then just going. You do it enough times, and eventually your body will learn. And it's just part of the process. It's just part of the process. Don't get down on yourself. Nothing wrong with you, right? But it's just the world is working against you, right? And the whole world is working against all of us when it comes to giving us stimulating pathological food to eat, right? So
good answer. It's true.
That's horrible. Yeah,
good
that's
answer.
horrible.
Yeah. So Nina says, I'd like to know if Eli will answer my request for coaching and when. I know he mentioned that he is still in the process of answering all of the requests he got, but I think I could use some help.
Yeah. Okay. No, I'm so sorry. And sometimes it is just a bit overwhelming for me because I do get a lot of stuff coming in, but okay. Yeah. Thank you. I'm glad Nina reached out to me. So yes, just send me another message, either email or through my Instagram, whichever. You can reach me at Freemelon. Well, what's my email there? freemeloneli@gmail.com. So you can reach out to me there. And just send me another note, and then I will get back to you as soon as possible. I'll take a look after we're done here.
Okay, great. And Tori said, Tori said, do either of you take herbs on a regular basis, or have you taken any in the past to target specific health issues? I personally haven't, but I think they're amazing and great, and a lot of people use them for healing. Have you, or do you take herbs?
I don't take them, no. I have tried them before, yes. So I've taken some of like the Dr. Morse protocol herbs. I've used and played with some other herbs. Largely just because they're really soothing, like they can taste really nice. Sometimes they're just nice in the evening. So I've done, or I've used a couple of herbs in that sense, but never never to heal anything in particular, and nothing that I've used I saw results from. So I mean, I guess because I'm doing the lifestyle that gives some pretty good healing already. So I've never noticed anything from using herbs. But yeah, I have played with a bunch of them, and I know that they are very helpful. Yes, especially when we're talking about people, the people who come from or are eating like a more standard conventional diets. Yeah, okay. So adding herbs and herbal teas and whatnot can be really, really helpful. But in the end, I guess I'm hesitant to say this, but in the end, really, nothing is going to work like the rest principle. Like nothing, absolutely nothing is going to work like getting out of your body's way and letting it do its thing. So whether that means physiological rest from just not eating and just taking a little bit of a break and fasting for a day or two, or whether it's with how you eat, right? Simplifying what you eat so that you're afforded more energy, and just simplifying the life in that sense. You're working on that rest principle, and that's always going to be what's healing. So the magic is never in the herbs or the fruits or the grapes or whatever. The magic is always in the energy that's liberated from your body not having to work hard, and then the extra energy that you serve is what gives you the healing. So yeah, so I mean, use whatever herbs you like. I've used them before, but I don't use herbs.
Yeah, me neither. Okay. And somebody said, is it possible to eat? Is it possible to comfort eat on a raw food diet? If not, how do you deal with emotions if you're used to turning to food for comfort? Some people say they are more spiritual after eating raw foods, and some say it's too much to handle. What are your experiences of this, please? That's a great question.
That's a good question. Is there such thing as comfort eating on a raw food diet? Absolutely, there is. Yes. If I bring home a jackfruit, I am comfort eating all damn day. Right. That is comfort eating. Gillian and I had a whole bunch of durian eating videos. Durian eating is definitely comfort eating. Okay. And you will also feel, if you like durian, first of all, you will be very comforted by by durian in your diet. So yeah, there are lots of comfort foods that you can eat. When I was saying earlier about the dates, right? The bananas and dates. Even in my first year, I even did baked. Like I cooked. I could cook bananas. That was a treat, right? Cooked bananas and dates. You can't believe how comfortable that would make you. Holy crap, right? Stuff is amazing. So yeah, you can very easily comfort eat on. Did you say a raw food diet?
Raw food diet, yeah.
Raw food diet. Oh my God, the options are limitless, right?
Yeah, all the gourmet.
Start getting into the nut butters and the nut creams and all this kind of stuff. Oh my God, yeah, you can. With raw food, it's like the sky's the limit, right? There's so much comfort food that you can eat there that is just as satisfying as any cooked food. So absolutely.
Yeah,
and
so
did
true.
I miss, was there another part to that question? Like,
well,
so
yeah, he was asking
because
he was saying, how do you deal with the emotions if you're used to turning to food for comfort too? Like.
Well, I'm never really as emotionally perturbed that I'm looking to food, but I'm human. It's just that the foods that I do turn to are fruits. So let's say it's a rough day for whatever reason, and I just don't want to think about work or whatnot, and I just want to sit down and eat. Then yeah, that's when I go out and get that massive jackfruit and just eat, or or a durian or whatever it is. If I don't do it almost never, but I could go and grab like avocados and nuts and make a massive salad, spend an hour just putting stuff together. Yeah, sure. That would be a comfort food for me. So yeah, these are things I could do. It's like, so in that sense, it's no different than anyone else. It's just that my standard for what a comfort food is a lot healthier than the average person's. Like I'm not going and grabbing KFC or something for comfort foods.
Totally. Okay. And the Greek raw man has some questions. Does he think that we need some fatty tropical fruits into our diet, and which of them does he think?
No, you don't need. It's just the word need. So do you need them? No, you don't. Would you, if you want to add them, go ahead and add them, right? That's no problem. Just know that you have to be a bit more mindful in terms of moderation when we're adding the high fat concentrated foods. But other than that, do you need them? No,
okay.
You don't.
Yeah. And he said, what's your opinion on Don Bennett? Have you ever heard of him, or do you have an interview with him? I've never heard of Don Bennett. I'll have to look. Okay.
I don't know who that is.
Okay. And he's wondering, would you go live in the tropics for some months of the year or forever if you had the chance? And where would you go?
Oh, where would I go? I would. Yeah, I would. It's, career kind of affixes me to Toronto or Vancouver or even Calgary. But yeah, no, I would love to. Where would I go? Dominican is nice. Let's see. Cuba, not Cuba. Costa Rica. Costa Rica is a great spot.
Mhm.
You lived in Costa Rica for a
I
while,
did.
didn't you?
I loved it for
Yeah,
a
you
year.
did.
It was pretty nice. It was pretty cool there.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, oh my gosh, there's lots of places that you could go. I'd love to try Guatemala or even Honduras. Honduras is quite nice. Lots of amazing food in Honduras. I any of these places would do. Any of these places would do. I don't know if I don't
Mhm.
know if I have it, if that's what you're asking.
And he was
But yeah, I
asking
mean,
too. Sorry, go ahead.
no, it's okay. No,
Oh,
you
he
go
was
ahead.
asking too, what's your opinion on iodine as a problematic nutrient to get?
As a problematic nutrient to get,
Yeah.
is it? Is
Well,
it
I guess some
problematic?
people think on raw vegan or vegan, they think iodine can be hard to get. I mean, for me, I'm raw vegan, not fruitarian, but I have it sometimes in kelp noodles. I've heard there's iodine and
Yeah.
I take there's a little bit of iodine in the supplement I take. I know my thyroid just tested perfect on all my blood work, but I don't know. What are your opinions on that?
Yeah.
What's your opinion?
Yeah. I say is it because I guess I'm questioning, like, well, is it a problematic nutrient? Like, do you need to get it in the concentrations that we say we need?
Hmm.
The whole spectrum, again, it's in everything, but it might be in very, very, very low or scant quantities, but it might just be that those are the quantities that are fine for you to
Hmm.
eat them in.
Hmm.
So if you're, I would say if you're worried about it, okay, so if it worries you and it causes you mental consternation, then yes, then I suggest getting some iodine-rich foods like the sea vegetables and whatnot.
Hmm.
I think the mental nutritional stress that we place on ourselves is sometimes more dangerous than the actual nutritional deficiency that you get by
Hmm.
not eating those things. Okay, so yeah, you still get iodine from eating food in general, from just either raw food or cooked food or whatnot. You still get these either minerals or nutrients or whatever it is. Some of the concentrations are again very low, but you might not need them in those high amounts. So that's the thing. Whenever we're talking about a nutrient, we always seem to kind of default to, oh, okay, well, we're talking about this nutrient, the highest concentrated forms of that nutrient in whatever food, right?
Hmm.
So we always you see how we always that, right? If we're talking about fats, we're always say, oh, so it's the chia seeds that we need, or the hemp seeds
Hmm.
that we need, or it's the avocado we need. We're talking about iodine. It's like, oh, well, we got to go to this food because it's the highest concentration of that. It might. This is where I think the nutrition thing impairs with our thinking, right? It should be the other way around. Like, first focus on what your food is and all the acceptable foods for you, and then you can just kind of make intelligent choices in that
Hmm.
nature.
Hmm.
But I've certainly never had to pay any attention to iodine. I just ate food for my species, and that's it.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. And someone said, how does Eli maintain his blood, urea, nitrogen levels if animal protein is what regulates that to normal levels? Also, how does he get his gallbladder / liver to produce bile if he isn't eating much fat or bitter greens? Hmm.
Um, um, how do I get my body? How do I get my body to produce bile if I'm not eating the fats? How do you get your body to produce hair? How do you get your body to produce blood? How do you get your body to produce semen? How do you get your body to produce saliva? None of these productions are things that you have to intellectually think about. These are all things that are done by nature. right, by your internal body intelligence, right? You do not have to think about any of these things. These are done by default to you if you keep yourself in good health, right? Your body takes care of all of these. If you eat healthy and your body is clean, bile production is the last thing you need to worry yourself with. It has nothing to do with the amount of concentration. See, here again, the question is, okay, he's not eating concentrated fats, so how does his bile produce fat digesting chemistry and what? Get the fats, all the fats that you need from food, right? All the fats are there. It's simply by avoiding concentrated, very dense sources of fat does not mean that I am not getting fats in my diet, right? So again, this is where the nutritional hangup, it messes with our minds, right? The world is messing with your mind, right? Not you, the person. I'm saying messing with our mind collectively. Yeah. So yes, all of body processes and all of these fluids and all of these, how do you manage to have hydrochloric acid, produced in your system? You don't know. Who the hell? Nobody thinks of this. You just live and eat food. And the rest of the stuff that happens internally, this is not your responsibility to think of. This is the agency of internal body intelligence. So long as you do your job and live how you're supposed to live, these things are taken care of for you. And if you do it, and if you live well, then they're taken care of for you in the most wonderful, glorious way, right? Without you having to worry about it. The reason you're not supposed to worry about it is because it requires a level of conscious evolution that is so vast and so sophisticated. We're just not ready for that type of responsibility to intellectually control all of these body processes. I know I'm drifting a little bit. I know that's not fantastic, but I guess the point I'm making is that when we do this, we set ourselves up to make intellectual errors about our diet, right? So my bile production works because I'm healthy, right? It's not eating elements that particular elements that the bile or that the spleen is responsible for or whatnot. All that stuff. So yeah, that's a fine question.
Yeah. And Wally said, do you have any suggestions on what to eat on long runs, say 2 hours or more, like doing long runs other than bananas and dates?
That's a good question. I would probably suggest you not do that, to not go on long run, a 2 hour long run.
2
That's
hours
a
or
long
more.
run.
That's a long run.
Yeah, that's a long run. I mean, I'm if he's in competition, right? So if he's preparing for a competition, then that's one thing. Okay, then you have to do what you got to do. If you're talking about going on long distance runs like that, just for general health, to be honest, I would probably advise you not do that. It'd be much healthier to get shorter bouts of exercise, shorter and more intense bouts of exercise rather than long sustained bouts of exercise like that. I won't go through it too much, but okay, what do you eat in order to maintain something like that? Juices, having some juices with you is probably good, because it's easy. You don't really want to be. See, this is one of those issues where you don't really want to be eating while you're exercising, right? Now, I know that during those long distance marathon runs, yeah, you'd often have those little stations where you pick up stuff and you just quickly down it to keep your to keep sustained while you're on this run. But it's not really the best way to go about it, because when you're exercising, it's like fight or flight mode. Okay, if you are in the middle of activity or exercise, the last thing that you should be doing is putting something into your system to be digested, because you're giving your body two different signals. Is it time to eat, or is it time to run from the tiger, right? If it's time to run from the tiger, exercise, then all the blood rushes out of your viscera and into your skeletal muscles so that you can run from the danger. Your body will not want to be digesting food while you're in the middle of exercise. So if you eat while you're exercising, none of that stuff is getting digested. It's going to sit there until your body calms down, and then your body comes out of fight or flight mode and says, okay, it's time to relax, and now I can eat food. So we need to separate the eating of food from activity. Those gym bros that you see at the gym, just like pumping iron and drinking protein. This is not health. Okay, this is just intellectual riffraff. So, what would you eat, or what? To answer your question again, I have never put myself in a situation where I would have to be eating in the middle of activity like that. It's probably best to keep all eating until after your activity. So like an hour after you're done activity, that's when the eating comes. If we're exercising for so long that we need meals in the context of activity, the exercise is too damn long. Right? That's not the problem. So usually eating, keep it after exercise. If you have to, if it's competition, that's going to be a different thing. So now you want like your athletic nutritionist to give you the tips and tricks and the cheats and whatnot. That's not where I would ideally coach people, because I'm going after optimal health and wellness, right? So that's a bit of a different thing, right? Yeah, interesting question. But no, I would just recommend on not doing activity that long and keeping all food until after activity.
Okay, good answer. And I have 3 more questions left. Jack said, how are his testosterone levels?
As far as I know, fine and normal. As far as I know, I could go out and test them. That could be something I could do in the future. But in terms of the last blood test I had, everything seems to be normal and fine.
Okay. And Jay said, what do you do for a living? Well, we talked about that a bit. You're a professional stuntman.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah. I'm a stuntman, professional stuntman. Yeah. And I do this now. I do, I work on my my YouTube channel. So that's something that's growing as well.
Yeah. And the last question, maybe the most important of them all. That is a beautiful man. Is he single?
Oh, Jesus.
I love it. Eli, you're funny.
Oh, no.
If you don't want to answer, you don't have to.
Yes, I am single. Oh my God.
Look out, the DMs are coming.
I need to work on, how I deal with compliments. This is so awful. Like, I'm such a child. This is ridiculous.
No, you're great. Well, honestly, it's been so great talking to you today. I'm just wondering, I would just like to know before we end off. Well, first of all, please let us know where everybody can find you, and I'll link it down below. Your channel's amazing. You're amazing. Everybody go follow Eli everywhere. But I want to know too, where do you think your life would be right now had you not taken this raw food path?
That's interesting. I wonder. Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I would probably still be working in film like I am now. But God, that's a good question. Where would I have gone? I can barely imagine my life without the type of development that I made, because part of my life growing up was this hobby, studying. Like studying and just research was my hobby. It was one of those things. So it started to become very much part of my life. So it'd be hard to say, what it would be like without that, because it was such a critical aspect of my development. But yeah, that's a good one. You know what? Okay, I think if none of this were part of my path, then maybe I would have gone into more of the branch of like athletic therapy and like rehab and physiotherapy and stuff. Maybe chiropractic or massage therapy, that kind of thing. I think that's where I would have gone if I know myself well. Either that or maybe maybe a male gigolo. Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I just wanted to be
I
unexpected.
know. I know you are. And I want to ask, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And then I'll stop asking questions because we have taken up so much of your time today. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Do you set goals for yourself? Do you think it's important to set goals? And then, yeah, let us know where everybody can find you and then I'll release you.
Yes. Set goals. Set small, shorter term, realistic goals, and then just always accomplish them. Because if your mind starts to get onto the idea that every time you set a goal, you actually accomplish it, it does something. It changes something in your subconscious. It turns you into, I am a person that accomplishes goals, right? And that mindset is so much different than someone who sets long-term, like unrealistic goals and never achieves them. Your subconscious starts to get the idea that you are the person that doesn't achieve goals, right? So yes, goal setting is great because you have a target and now you can have something to actually focus your attention on. So of course, highly recommended that you do that. What was the other aspect of that question?
I was just asking you, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And yeah, do you think it's important to set goals?
Yeah. What I'd like to see is I'd like to see my my online business. I say business, but my online business just be able to sustain me more so than my work in film. Because I still do love performance. I love drama. I love I love what I'm doing, but it would be nice to just package whatever influence I do have with my channel, and maybe I have a couple books that I'd like to release in the future, whether it's just working, because right now the whole extent of what I do online is just content, is just YouTube content. I love it, right? It's great. It's just an outlet for me to kind of give back to the community what I've been able to take in from all the books and just whatever research I've done. So yeah, so all I've been doing is making content and giving it back. So I haven't explored any other avenue of online business or whatnot. So maybe this just me, because I tend to be a really simple guy. So maybe there's that, but I think I need to explore that more in the near future. So that would probably be the most clear endeavor for the next foreseeable couple of years.
Amazing. Yeah. And for anybody who doesn't know, where can they find you? What's your channel name and everything?
Oh yeah. Okay. So if you want to see more of my stuff, then you can head over to the Freemelon Society on YouTube. I also have an Instagram account that you can look at. Oh gosh, what is my Instagram? You can tell how often I use Freemelon underscore Eli. I think that's my Freemelon underscore Eli is my Instagram. I'll post some stuff there, some exercise videos, and just little snippets of life. So those are pretty much the only two avenues that I really explore. So yeah, the Freemelon Society on YouTube, and you can find me on Instagram as well.
Yeah, and you're amazing. Thanks again so much. And it's nice to do one on Zoom. I know Eli and we actually only live like 20 minutes away from each other, right? Or maybe 20, 25 max. I don't know, but it was nice to do it on Zoom. But again, I'll link all our other videos down below that we've done in person. I love having Eli on. If you have any ideas for future videos with him or videos you want to see on this channel, comment down below. And I love you guys so much. If this video added some value to your day, give it a big thumbs up and make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. Okay. Take care. Mwah.